part of the park up here is separated from this part of the park down here by that bridge right there. Only way in, only way out. So I normally suggest to people do it either first or last. Okay, one of the two. Actually, right now I would suggest first. This is all uphill. And 3 hours from now, you're going to be a lot more tired than you are right now. So that's just a suggestion. But to get to the tram, if you want to go to the tram straight away, right on the other side of this big tree is this signpost 3. So if you go to signpost 3, at the very bottom of it is a red arrow. And the red arrow says Africa Tram. So you're going to follow the red arrows. So that takes you down this long walkway, down to this number 6, then down to number 9, down to the elevator, bottom of the elevator, get off, come back down, all the way down to the tram. So it's about as far away as you can get. Almost as far. You can still go out here. But that's where the cheetahs are all the way at the end. But that's how you would get the tram. It runs about every 15 minutes and it's about a half-hour trip.
Okay.
You just saw what arrow eat at. I think a winner would like to photo.
In our East African habitat, you can see some of our southern white rhinos across the way, as well as some of our tower of giraffe. We have one of the youngsters at the feeding station right here next to us that we're just approaching. Now we do return this way as we're headed back to the tram station. So we're going to keep on heading out on this little bit of a hot bumble. Today we're going to talk a little bit about ethology, which is the study of animal behavior, the relationship between predators and their prey. But I'm also a little bit of a dork, so I might throw in a few fun facts as well. Now on the passenger side in our lagoon hubs, and no, we don't call them greater because they're better than the other flamingos. It's because they are the largest of the flamingo species. Now, a fun fact about flamingos, they're one of the only birds that produces milk. Both the male and female flamingo produce very pink milk in their crop that they'll then regurgitate and feed to their young. Savannah hub. On the passenger side is our Nakitakon Rhino Rescue Center. You can see some of our rhinos completely passed out in the shade underneath the palapas and down towards the bottom of the habitat. Now, Nakitakon Rhino Rescue Center is home to 10 southern white rhinos, 6 of which are females. With these females, we're working to bring back their northern white rhino from the brink of extinction. As it stands today, there are 2 northern white rhinos remaining on this planet. They're both females, mother and daughter, originally from the Czech Republic, but they now live in Kenya. Because those females can no longer reproduce, the northern white rhino is functionally extinct. Fortunately for us, we have genetic material on property in our frozen zoo, rhino females, and then they could act as surrogate moms. We do have a long-term goal of having a large enough crash of northern white rhinos here at the park that we may even be able to begin to return some back to their natural habitat. Now at the water's edge you can see the largest antelope in Africa, the eland. We do have a chance to see them as we come around the other side of this habitat. So now white rhinos, they are enormous animals. On average, they're going to weigh about 2,000 kilos, which is more than 4,000 pounds. So what do you think is a predator for a rhino out in the wild today? It's us, humans. We are the primary predator for rhinos in the world today because we poach them for the most ridiculous reason, and that's for their horns. I say ridiculous because a rhino horn, it's made up of the same thing as our hair and our fingernails. and that's a protein called keratin. But there are people across the world that believe that rhino horn holds some sort of medicinal, magical, mythical value. Ever recorded, flying at about 36,000 feet. Now right along the waterfall here in the little pond, you're going to see in the water, which is unusual, we have two of our lapid-faced vultures. They are these very brown birds with the pink head and neck. Now the lapid-faced vulture is the largest vulture in Africa. We also have some African crowned cranes and some yellow-billed storks in the habitat there. The regions of northern Ethiopia. That's going to help protect them from some of their main predators in the wild, the leopard. Chocolatey brown antelope. These are sable. Now you might notice the ones that are laying down, facing every which direction. That's because sable antelope have an incredibly high flight drive. So at the first sign of a threat, they're just going to bolt. By them, or everyone, laying a little bit of a different direction, there's always one of them keeping an eye out for any threat that might come their way. Of course, they don't have predators here at the park, but it's such a strong natural behavior for them. Now on the passenger side is our African forest habitat. I know it's like Where's Waldo out here finding the animals. If you look at the inlet, all the way up against that stone bridge on the left-hand side, believe it or not, there are two antelope there, one laying down, one standing in the shadows there, and those are female Sitatunga. Now being African forest antelope, they do like to stay tucked deep into the brush. On the right-hand side of the pond, along that roadway up at the top, on the very right, you'll see some animals laying down. One is standing up in the shade of a tree. You can see his horns. He's a little more visible because he's actually not an African forest antelope. That's a male impala. We're not actively breeding the impala right now, so he's over here, away from his females, spending a little time in our African forest habitat. They're one of the only antelope species that stand their ground against a predator. They're quite large and equine-like. Now if you take a look at the black and white face masks that they have, a lot of the antelope you've seen today have these black and white markings of some form on their faces. If you notice these animals, the black mark goes above, across, and below their loss of habitat. Now you're going to have a beautiful view of some of my favorite African animals, the African buffalo. Now this is our breeding herd of African buffalo. The cool thing about buffalo, they don't camouflage. They don't need to camouflage because they will actively defend all members of the breeding herd. Now if they thought that we in this tram were a threat, the entire herd would stand, turn, and face us. They'd lift their noses, they'd smell the air. They would try to intimidate us into backing. They have a much wider, thicker stripe pattern than the grevies we saw earlier. And then on the driver's side, our herd of eland, the largest antelope in Africa. These light tan animals, you notice they're really spread out all across this habitat because they don't need each other to protect one another. Out in the wild, the only predators they'll have will be a pride of lions or a clan of hyenas. Now, if you didn't get a good view of that mountain zebra, we hear the rest. Like those two other juveniles, they just sort of take quick little rests up on their hoofs. And then you can see a few more of our southern white rhinos across the way on the hillside. A great way to see all the animals out here in this East African habitat is to make your way on up to Kalima Point. It is a lovely overview. Not only will you see East Africa, but over towards our Asian habitat as well. A few more southern white rhinos off the front of the tram as we turn the...
So we finished the safari tour. I need to something to drink. I'll catch up back later.
You see this? Yeah.
I'm for it.
Nice. It's so close.
Alright, now we just finished the Africa side. Now we about to head to the Tiger Trail right now up on this little bridge over here. I recently just got this hat, y'all. Shout out to look at that little gorilla. Big G. It's like, oh yeah, Tiger Trail. Let's see what's going on in here. Trees. Get a video view.